Sorry about that. A little lesson learned here. When using a free tool such as Screencastify, which has a 10-minute limit, be sure to make your videos as concise and short as possible, because if you do go on a tangent, you may end up cutting yourself short like I did. So that's just something to think about when you're making your videos. Keep in mind the time limit that you have with videos, and you probably shouldn't go over that 10-minute limit anyways when working with students, just to make sure that you don't lose their attention. So I'm going to get right back into the content here. So we talked about the benefits. I want to move on to the myths. So the first myth that people have with flipped instruction is that flipped instruction relies on video. And that's not necessarily true. The videos are a component to flipped instruction, but remember the purpose of flipped instruction. It's that we want to create a student-centered learning environment in our classrooms. So the videos just help us get there. So they are an important piece, but it's not the focus of flipped instruction. The focus is what's happening in your classroom, because the direct instruction is happening through video. The second myth is that flipped instruction relies on homework. This is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, but it's not true. You can do flipped instruction without homework. I'll tell you about that later. The other myth is flipped instruction creates a digital divide. And that's the thought that since you're having students learn through video at home, then those students that don't have a computer or internet access are being left behind. And that's not necessarily true. Again, the videos don't have to be homework. It's something you can incorporate in your class. The other piece too is that students may not have a formal computer, a full-fledged desktop or a laptop. However, they might have something that could still be used to watch videos, such as an iPod Touch, Xbox, or even an iPad. And so you can still make videos available to students. You just have to maybe provide it to them on a flash drive before they leave for school or for home. So that digital divide piece, it's not necessarily true. There's things that you can do to avoid the digital divide. And the last myth is that flipped instruction propagates bad teaching. And so we're now learning that direct instruction, lecturing at students all the time, doesn't work. And I think we understood that, but it's now, I think, better understood. And people think that flipped instruction is just the same old stuff, just happening on video. And that's not true. Yes, there is direct instruction that happens, and that happens in every classroom. It doesn't matter what type of instructional model that you're using, direct instruction happens. Flipped instruction just is taking that direct instruction, taking it and packaging it into a video and trying to make that learning more accessible to students. So yes, there's direct instruction that happens, but you're trying to reduce the amount of time that's spent on the direct instruction and trying to make it more accessible for students. And to kind of move us along, people get overwhelmed with the idea of flipping their instruction, flipping their classroom, because they think that you have to flip everything. And that's not necessarily true. So I got this quote from John Bergman. He's one of the, we can say, godfathers of flipped instruction. And this is what he said in a workshop that I was in with him. He said, "You don't flip a class, you flip a lesson." So you don't have to decide, I'm going to be the flipped classroom teacher from now on, so I'm going to flip every single lesson that I do. Every piece of direct instruction is going to happen through video. Let's be realistic. It'd be very, very difficult to do that. So take your flipped instruction model and try to break it up into small chunks. And just choose a lesson that you want to flip, and that's the one that you'll make the video or videos for. And then see how that goes and try it with an upcoming lesson. Maybe you skip the next lesson. Maybe you do the next lesson in a more traditional manner and plan for the upcoming lesson after that and do that in a flip model. And a way you can kind of think about this is that if you do if you follow flipped instruction for a couple of years, and let's say 3 or 4 years later, if you're just doing every couple of lessons, you should have every lesson flipped after that 3 or 4 year mark. And if you really are committed to flipped instruction, you'll find that after about a year, you're going to want to flip everything, and you'll make the time to make that happen. But for now, just be thinking about flipping a lesson, not your entire class. And that'll lead us to our next activity. However, I want to focus on these 3 key elements for success. Quality instructional videos. So they don't have to be perfect, but just make sure you have the content in the videos that you want students to learn. The second piece, engaging classroom activities. So again, the focus is creating that student-centered learning environment. So make sure that when students come to class, you have something that's active for them, that will engage them into the learning, and make sure that they will apply what they've learned. And then the last piece is robust assessments. And if you come to our February 17th session, you're going to learn more about assessing using the FLIP model. But just want to highlight this now is you want to make sure that what you're assessing is a little bit deeper than what you might assess in the traditional model, because in a traditional model you might only have time to get to just the basic low-level information. While with the FLIP model, the idea is to go into that deeper learning. And so if you're teaching kids to go into that deeper level of learning, you have to assess them there too. So again, we'll talk about that more on the February 17th session, but just wanted to highlight it right now. So the next activity is another question. And so the question this time is, what is one idea you have for creating a flipped lesson? And you've only learned a little bit about flipped instruction right now, but just want you to take some time to discuss with your partner and just throw out an idea. What's a lesson that maybe has not been successful for you in the past, or that's just coming up that you might be able to flip? And talk about that with your partner and kind of just share some of your ideas. And once you've had that chance to discuss this with your partner, there's a link to a Padlet for you to share your response. And the way that Padlet works, I'll actually show you in another video tutorial. It'll be a really short video. So I'll show you how to do that. But that's something you're going to post on the Padlet, and you're going to continue to edit that post throughout today's session. Okay, and once you have posted to the Padlet with your idea of a flipped lesson, you're going to move on to the next piece, which is the different ways to flip instruction.